Officer Incident Statement, November 7th. 2024 transcription begins as recorded on department-issued body mic during supplemental review of case, file 24-317B. I am providing this narrative per supervisor request due to irregularities noted in prior reports and gaps in dispatch logs. I acknowledge that some details conflict with standard procedure, but I am recording them exactly as they occurred. At 22:14 hours, I responded alone to a welfare check at 119 Breaker Road, an address previously associated with multiple noise complaints and 2 prior missing person calls closed as unfounded. Dispatch advised caller was an unidentified male whispering she came back inside before the line disconnected. No callback number was captured. Weather: freezing fog, visibility under 20 meters, wind northeast. Upon arrival, I observed the residence dark except for a weak interior flicker consistent with candlelight or a depleted battery lamp. The house looked abandoned. Porch sagging, mailbox rusted through, windows partially boarded. No vehicles present. No footprints in frost except a single trail from the front walkway leading toward the woods behind the property. I announced myself and approached. Door was cracked open roughly 2 inches. No signs of forced entry. When I pushed it wider, the hinges emitted a high metallic tone that echoed through the interior longer than natural reverberation. Immediate odor: damp insulation mixed with hair-burning electrical smell. Hallway showed signs of recent occupancy. Muddy shoe prints, a thermos still warm to touch, and a notebook lying open on the floor showing frantic scrawls repeating the phrase, "Stay in the beam," across at least 6 pages, though no flashlight or lamp beam was present. Proceeding inward, I radioed dispatch to confirm caller identity. Transmission returned clipped, heavy static, then a voice stating, "Unit already inside." Dispatch later verified no such response was sent from their end. In the living room, I found a camping lantern positioned on a chair facing the hallway, as though pointed at something. Lantern battery indicator read empty, yet light remained faintly on, dimming and brightening rhythmically in a pattern resembling breathing. Floorboards creaked in the adjacent kitchen, though thermal sweep from my handheld showed no heat signatures besides my own. I announced again, no reply. Moving toward the noise, I noted temperature drops severe enough to fog my visor. Inside, the kitchen counters were cleared except for a single Polaroid photograph propped against a canister. The image showed the same kitchen, but with all lights out and a tall figure standing behind the chair where the lantern had been. The figure's head was indistinct, blurred by motion or deliberate obstruction, and the timestamp printed beneath the image read 22:16, 2 minutes after my recorder arrival time, although I had not seen any flash or heard any shudder. I secured the photo and backed to the hallway, intending to exit and request backup. At that moment, movement registered at end of corridor. A silhouette leaning slightly into view from the bathroom doorway. Height approximately 1.9 meters. Posture rigid, not matching any known subject description for the address. I raised my flashlight and issued commands. Beam hit the figure and immediately stuttered to half intensity despite fresh batteries. When the light dimmed, the silhouette's outline altered, as though additional joints or angles shifted into place. Not forward movement, but a reconfiguration like limbs adjusting to avoid direct illumination. I heard a whisper carried on no breath, words uncertain, but repeated thrice with rising urgency. Audio review later captured only a frequency spike outside vocal range. I stepped back toward exit, but front door slammed shut with force inconsistent with current weather conditions. Lantern in living room extinguished simultaneously, plunging entire space into near-complete darkness, except my weakening flashlight beam. Behind me, floorboards flexed under weight, yet no distinct footfall. My peripheral vision noted shapes accumulating in the doorway thresholds, vertical smears of darker shadow that receded the moment I centered my beam. Radio crackled again with a low harmonic tone synchronized to my heartbeat, and then a voice said she isn't done. I cannot confirm gender or origin. Seeking alternative exit, I moved toward rear mudroom. Walls felt warmer there, humidity rising unnaturally. Door to backyard was open roughly the same 2 inches as the front had been, framing only fog. On the inside of the door, someone had etched symbols into the paint. Crude triangles intersected by vertical slashes matching sketches found in an older missing person file connected to this property 12 years prior. As I approached, a handprint appeared on the glass, forming from inside heated condensation, moving outward despite my being the only person present. Print size large, fingers long, spread wide as though bracing to enter. My flashlight finally failed, leaving only the faint ambient glow of fog-filtered moonlight. In that instant, I felt pressure on my shoulder, like someone leaning in close, though no silhouette was visible. The same whisper surfaced inches from my ear. "Stay in the beam." A second Polaroid slid across the floor from the darkness, stopping against my boot. The image showed me standing exactly where I was. Same posture, same surroundings, but behind me a face leaned over my shoulder, eyes white, mouth open in a shape impossible for human anatomy. Timestamp read 22:24, matching the exact minute of discovery according to my Bodycam. I exited through the rear door without further investigation, sprinted to perimeter, and re-established radio contact once clear of fog density. All subsequent attempts to re-enter with backup found the house empty, lantern missing, and both Polaroids vanished from evidence bag despite chain of custody confirmation. Into transcription. Supplemental statement, November 8th, 2024, recorded at 4:32 hours in the evidence review room following supervisor directive to clarify inconsistencies between my initial narrative and environmental data logged by units responding after me. I acknowledge that portions of this continuation may be affected by stress-induced distortion, but I will describe each element exactly as it occurred to the best of my recollection. After clearing perimeter and reconvening with responding officers, I noted that none of them reported seeing fog of the density I had encountered minutes earlier. Dashcam videos from their cruisers show clear air, no trace of condensation or ground mist. Yet my own uniform remained damp as though from heavy fog exposure. One of the officers, Mendez, asked why my flashlight was shattered. I had no memory of damage, yet the lens had cracked inward, not outward, with a fine layer of black dust around the fracture. I attempted to re-enter the property with the team at 22:41 hours. Upon crossing the threshold, the house interior no longer matched previous layout. The chair that held the lantern was gone. The muddy shoe prints in the hallway had vanished. Even the lingering odor had changed, now resembling cold stone and mildew rather than burnt wiring. Mendez remarked that the floor felt off-level, and it did. Subtle tilt underfoot as though the foundation had shifted. Thermal scans came back clean. Team swept kitchen where I had found the first Polaroid. Counters were fully bare, including the dust layer, which appeared undisturbed in long uniform streaks inconsistent with anything having been placed there recently. I reported the etchings on rear door, but those too had disappeared. Paint was intact, no signs of scraping or recent cover-up. When I mentioned the handprint, one of the team checked for thermal residue. None present. Bodycam footage from my prior entry was then reviewed on site. Recordings showed me scanning through the house, but key anomalies were missing. The lantern's pulsing light, the silhouette at the bathroom doorway, the handprint forming from condensation. Instead, the footage presented an empty structure devoid of those elements, though audio still captured sporadic low-frequency interference. At timestamp 22:24, the moment I picked up the second Polaroid, the camera image briefly warped, flash freeze distortions, and vertical tearing on the left margin, consistent with electromagnetic interference. But the frame showed only the back door and my own figure. No entity behind me. No face leaning over my shoulder. That discrepancy was noted for forensic tech review. While the team continued sweep, I circled to the rear where the woods began. Frost near the treeline showed a melted patch approximately 1 meter wide, in a circular shape, steam rising faintly though temperature was below freezing. In the center of that patch, I found a torn scrap of photographic backing, white cardstock with adhesive residue, consistent with Polaroid film but blank, as if image layer had been peeled away. When I touched it, I felt a residual warmth and a faint pulse through the material like static discharge. I bagged it and flagged the location. Returning inside, I heard a noise from the attic. 3 slow knocks spaced evenly. Team confirmed no animals registered on motion sensors. Access ladder was extended and I climbed up. The attic showed dust patterns uninterrupted except for a narrow path where dust had been cleared in a straight line from hatch to far wall, as though something had dragged or slid without lifting its weight. At the end of that path was a cluster of objects arranged deliberately. A broken flashlight bulb identical to the one from my duty light, a strip of fabric resembling uniform lining, and a single long black hair approximately 30 centimeters in length, darker than any sample typical for local residents, and unnaturally smooth like synthetic fiber, though tests later marked it as organic. When I approached the objects, the attic temperature dropped sharply. Breath fogged out of my mouth in windless stillness. Then, without any movement from me, the hair began to rise vertically as if pulled upward by an unseen force. I radioed for a second unit to witness. Before they could respond, the attic boards behind me flexed, loud enough to suggest significant weight. I rotated slowly, flashlight raised, my backup light, this one fully functional. Beam caught nothing at first except rafters and insulation. Then a shape receded into the far corner, not stepping but collapsing into the darkness, limbs folding in unnatural sequence like joints bending in reverse order, retreating from direct illumination. My beam dimmed, transiently though battery was full. The air felt charged, as if storm front had formed indoors. A whisper vibrated against the floorboards, not in my ears but through my boots. "You brought the beam." At that moment, the attic hatch slammed shut, though I was nowhere near it, plunging me into near darkness. The only illumination came from the faintest glow radiating from the Polaroid scrap in my pocket, too weak to see details, yet enough to cast a thin outline of my own shadow. Behind that shadow, I saw another shape stretching taller each second, reaching toward the ceiling with elongated arms. I forced open the hatch and dropped to the hallway floor as team members rushed over. They saw no entity, no movement, no attic disturbance. When I looked inside, all objects I had observed were gone. Only a thin smear of dust remained where the hair had lain, a straight line pointing toward the hatch. End supplemental statement. Supplemental continuation statement, November 9th. 2024 logged at 2:58 hours following directive from Lieutenant Harper to provide detailed account of events occurring after cleared scene at 119 Breaker Road and during subsequent transport of evidence to central processing. I exited the property at approximately 23:12 hours with officers Mendez and Curson accompanying. Air outside had returned to standard temperature for region, no fog visible. My uniform, however, still emitted faint warmth in irregular pulses, most noticeable along left shoulder where I had previously felt pressure inside the residence. I attempted to ignore the sensation and carried the evidence kit containing the Polaroid scrap. We proceeded to the cruiser, Dashcam active. During drive back to station, nothing unusual presented until 2319 when interior cabin lights flickered despite vehicle systems functioning normally. Mendez checked alternator reading, all numbers within expected range. Flicker repeated at intervals of exactly 4 seconds. Review of Dashcam later showed no flicker recorded on video, though cabin brightness visibly dimmed to our eyes. At 2322 radio emitted distortion similar to prior interference inside residence. Low harmonic pulse cycling in sync with cruiser speed. tone rising as we accelerated. Dispatch attempted contact, but only fragments came through. Curson requested I open the evidence kit to ensure no device inside was causing interference. When I opened the kit, the Polaroid scrap was warm to touch again, warmer than before, almost vibrating. In the dim cabin light, I noticed faint markings on its surface. Lines and angles forming slowly like developing film, though no emulsion remained. The shapes mirrored the symbols I had previously seen etched on the mudroom door, though those had vanished. As the marks intensified, the cruiser headlights dimmed momentarily and engine stuttered, then recovered. Mendez insisted we pull over. We stopped at mile marker 41 on County Road. Engine idled rough. I held the scrap near dashboard light. Lines now fully formed into a single triangle intersected by 3 vertical slashes. Beneath it, a dark blot began spreading across the card like ink bleeding through. When it reached the edge, the interior cabin temperature plummeted so abruptly breath fog filled the space. Curson opened the door to vent, but outside air remained normal. Only interior of cruiser affected. He reached for radio, but it emitted continuous static. Within static, a voice pattern emerged repeating, "Still inside. Still inside. Still inside." I placed the scrap back in an evidence bag and sealed it. Temperature stabilized gradually. We resumed drive with caution. Upon arrival at station, perimeter lights briefly cut out as cruiser passed gate, though facility logs claimed no outage occurred. Inside evidence intake room, I turned scrap over to technician Hollis, who scanned barcode and prepared to store. When she set it under fluorescent lamp, the lamp oscillated rapidly, then went dead. Technician noted fixture was new and had passed inspection earlier that week. She switched to alternate lamp. Under that light, the scrap's blotch marks appeared darker, pulsing faintly. She asked if sample contained any battery or reactive chemical. I confirmed it was inert cardstock. As she logged it into system, timestamp 2357, the station fire alarm triggered building-wide, despite no smoke detected. All units evacuated the lot. During evacuation, I felt the warmth on my shoulder again intensify, radiating down to elbow. Bodycam picked up low-frequency vibration around me, though no sound registered on ambient mics nearby. After all clear given 20 minutes later, we re-entered. Evidence room showed no disturbance except the bag containing scrap had shifted position by several inches, though no one had been inside. Camera covering evidence room glitched during alarm, producing 15 seconds of corrupted frames, time-stamped exactly when scrap moved. Footage review shows faint silhouette in those corrupted frames, tall with elongated posture resembling figure observed in-house, though static distortion prevents confirmation. Technician Hollis attempted to rescan scrap, but barcode now unreadable as if heat warped. Physical print still visible, yet scanner failed repeatedly. When she lifted it to inspect, a small piece flaked off, curling like burnt paper, though no burn smell present. The flake dissolved in a black dust upon contact with floor. Hollis recommended immediate transfer to isolation vault. As we walked sample down corridor, the overhead lights dimmed sequentially following our movement. Security saw lights dim, but sensors recorded no voltage drop. Temperature again dropped sharply, then rose within seconds, creating rapid pressure fluctuations painful to ears. I reached vault door and keyed override. As vault seal released the scrap within bag, emitted faint white glow reflecting on steel. At this moment, I experienced sudden nausea and visual distortion. Hallway walls appeared further away, elongating as though perspective stretched unnaturally. Bodycam recorded this as frame stutter, though no physical change to hallway occurred. When I blinked, the distortion ceased. I stepped inside vault, placed bag on shelf, and closed seal. Immediately after seal, engaged, a loud knock sounded from inside vault, though no one else was present. Hollis and I stood by door for approximately 10 seconds. A second knock occurred, louder than first. Before third, could occur emergency generator activated though main power had not failed, causing brief blackout of station interior door lights. Upon restoration, vault corridor showed frost spreading in thin branching patterns across floor originating from vault seal. I touched metal lightly. Surface temperature registered several degrees below building ambient. I notified Harper and requested overnight isolation status for sample. He approved. At approximately 0:43, I exited building to parking lot. Ambient cold fog had formed around my cruiser, though sky remained clear. Fog perimeter ended abruptly 3 feet from vehicle. No transition zone. As I approached, interior cabin lights turned on by themselves, though cruiser was locked. Inside, I could see my own reflection in windshield, and behind that reflection, a second outline misaligned with mine by several inches, head tilted. When I looked directly through glass, the outline disappeared. When I shifted angle, it returned. Shape leaned forward each time headlights of passing car flashed across lot, yet remained static otherwise. When I unlocked, an open door interior was empty, but cabin retained faint smell of damp insulation identical to odor at 119 Breaker Road earlier. I closed door and decided to use alternate vehicle for night. Before leaving parking lot, I received text message from unknown number containing single attachment. A digital image resembling Polaroid format. Image displayed parking lot from elevated angle as if taken from roof. In foreground stood my cruiser. Beside it stood tall figure with elongated arms stretched downward almost touching ground. Its head faced upward toward camera. Timestamp on image. 0:44, the exact minute I had approached cruiser. Text under image read, "Still in the beam." In continuation. Final supplemental statement November 10th, 2024 filed at 5:11 hours per directive to document all further events connected to case file 24-317B, including occurrences outside official duty hours. I am aware this account may fall outside parameters of standard admissible reporting, but given repeated corroboration through environmental anomalies, system malfunctions, and third-party partial observations, I am submitting the following in full. After receiving the anonymous Polaroid-style image in parking lot, I forwarded it to Harper. Before he could reply, the attachment corrupted on my screen, dissolving into vertical gray bands until file displayed only static. When attempting to reopen the message, the sender's number had vanished from device history entirely, leaving no trace in logs. I left cruiser and proceeded to my assigned replacement vehicle. As I drove home, the shoulder warmth intensified again, rhythmic, matching cadence of my pulse. When I turned onto Briar Road, cabin temperature dropped by nearly 10 degrees in seconds. Front windshield fog from inside only. Defroster at maximum power had no effect. Thin shapes formed in condensation. Long vertical streaks, moving independently of vehicle motion. My rearview mirror reflected faint illumination behind me like a small handheld light, yet road remained empty. At 0:58, headlights momentarily illuminated a figure on roadside. Tall, motionless, facing the treeline rather than road. Appeared identical to silhouette at Breaker Road. As I passed, the figure did not turn or react. Dashcam footage later showed no figure present. I reached residence at 111. Exterior of house normal. Upon entering, I noted faint odor of mildew and cold stone, though central heating was running. I conducted sweep. Interior secure. I attempted sleep, but was awakened at 2:17 by 3 knocks from inside wall adjacent to bedroom closet. Spacing identical to attic knocks at 119 Breaker Road. I checked structural exterior for animals, but found no access points. When I pressed hand against wall, I felt temperature drop, localized to size of adult handprint, colder than surrounding drywall. As I withdrew, faint static sounded through house wiring, electrical hum rising and falling in patterns matching earlier radio interference. I contacted dispatch to report potential hazardous wiring. Before they could respond, the static ceased instantly. At 2:24, my bedroom door opened by itself despite latch engaged. Camera in hallway, motion triggered, activated 4 times, but captured only distorted black frames. I entered hallway and felt air shift behind me. Pressure changed similar to vault corridor earlier. Without turning, I sensed presence leaning close behind left shoulder. Shoulder warmth flared, then extinguished as if something pulled away sharply. I returned to bedroom and closed door. At 2:31, phone vibrated with another incoming attachment. No sender information displayed. Image depicted interior of my living room from elevated height, though no such angle exists within house without ladder. Room lights appeared off. In center of frame stood a vertical beam of light. Narrow, perfectly straight, illuminating only a small patch of floor. Standing partly inside beam was a human figure, posture slanted, arm extended toward edge of beam, as though resisting being drawn fully in or fully out. Facial features blurred. In lower right corner of image was timestamp, 2 hours, 24 minutes, and 6 seconds, matching exact moment hallway door had opened. Beneath image text read, "It leaves only when you don't." Phone immediately shut down before I could save file. Battery tested, afterward showed full charge. At 2:40, I performed full sweep of house. Found no entry points disturbed. However, in living room center, where beam had appeared in image, dust ring had formed, a narrow circle roughly diameter of flashlight beam. No footprints approached or left ring. Floor inside ring felt slightly warm, outside it cold. As I leaned in for closer look, warmth in shoulder returned, stronger, almost pulling downward like hand gripping from above. I staggered back. At 2:47, light fixture overhead flickered in pattern of 2 long pulses followed by 1 short, repeating. I recorded sequence. Electrical tech later confirmed fixture wiring intact and stable at time of event. Pulses ceased when I stepped back in a dust ring. Standing within ring, I felt air pressure stabilize and sound dampen, as though insulated from house. Outside, ring visibility dimmed at edges of vision, even though room lights were on. When I stepped out again, temperature dropped sharply and faint whisper rose behind me. Turn it on. I retrieved backup flashlight from duty bag and activated it. Beam appeared normal. When directed toward dust ring, the beam narrowed further, unnaturally, compressing in a thin column that held shape like solid structure for several seconds. In that column, faint particles rose upward against gravity like reversed ash. Whisper returned, "Stay in the beam." At that moment, phone powered on by itself, vibrating with incoming call. Caller ID blank. When I answered, only static played, then harmonic tone escalating rapidly. Floorboards behind me flexed. I turned flashlight, catching brief silhouette taller than doorway, retreating sideways in unnatural motion, limbs folding before vanishing. Tone ceased abruptly. I contacted Harper and requested immediate on-site presence. He arrived at 3:11 with 2 officers. Upon entering living room, dust ring had vanished. Warmth on floor absent. My phone displayed no call-in log. Harper observed my condition and ordered temporary leave pending psych evaluation. I attempted to show him earlier corrupted image. File no longer existed. At 3:34, while officers present, all 3 witnessed overhead light dim for approximate 1 second, though building grid normal. They noted chill, but no visible anomalies. Harper inspected hallway camera and confirmed corrupted black frames, matching times I provided. He collected my phone for forensic imaging. At 4:02, while standing at threshold of living room, all officers and I heard 3 knocks from inside wall. The same sequence. Officers drew weapons. Harper checked exterior. No animal activity, no structural cause. Wall temperature registered 5 degrees lower than house ambient. No further sound occurred. At 4:14, as they prepared to leave, Harper paused at front door and asked if I had left living room light on earlier. I said yes. He said it's off now. When we returned to room, the light was indeed off, though switch unchanged. In darkness, we saw a faint, narrow beam on floor. No source, no device. Beam collapsed when we stepped closer, like fabric falling. Officers visually confirmed event, though no device located. Harper ordered temporary relocation for my safety. As I locked front door, a final message buzzed through phone, despite Harper holding it in sealed evidence pouch. Screen lit through pouch, displaying text only. Still inside. Phone shut down again. End final supplemental statement.